Good morning, everyone. I am Akshata, your host for today. I welcome each and everyone for Sadgun Sang Meet. This is our 269 virtual webinar. Topic for today, 66th virtual webinar. Topic for today is POSHAct, Prevention and Prohibition. Shall be taken by CA Divya Somani. We covered in today's topic, which is understanding sexual harassment under the POSHAct, types of unwelcome conduct, physical, verbal, non-verbal, and digital, real life workplace scenarios and examples, rights of employees and responsibilities of employers, followed by question and answer session. Agenda for today's Sadgun Sang Meet, virtual evaluation by Dr. Sundar Kataria, evoking the blessing of deity chanting of Gayatri Mantra, introduction of speaker, presentation by CA Divya Somani, question and answer session. About Sadgun Sang. Sadgun Sang conceived and led by Dr. Sundar Kataria, driven with the mission to elevate the quality, safety, and environmental awareness levels of industry. Sadgun Sang is a series of educative, informative events aiming to illuminate professionals of possible solutions to current issues of industry and economy. Brief introduction of Dr. Sundar Kataria, Chairman and Managing Director, International Certification Services Private Limited, Mechanical Engineer, AMIE, Honorary Doctorate, Business Management, Nuclear RAPP. He started his career in building India's first nuclear power plant at Rawat Bhata, Kota, Rajasthan. Oil and gas, EIL. He contributed in developing India's first oil and gas field at Bombay High since its inception. DNV. He was head of industry and offshore development with DNV with 2 decades. ICS. He is a founder of first Indian conformity assessment and inspection body known as International Certification Services Private Limited, which is a provider of a total quality solution under single umbrella with wide spectrum of services. Lifetime Achievement Awards of NACE Corcon, received several national and international awards. Please join us for the recitation of Gayatri Mantra. Introduction of keynote speaker. Partner and Rangamani Associate, Chartered Accountant, Ajmer Branch, HO, Kottayam, Kerala. BCom, Chartered Accountant, Diploma in Information System Audit, Diploma in International Financial Reporting Standards, Company Secretary, Insolvency Professional. Experience in Posh Awareness and Compliance Training, guest speaker at series of G20 International Online Confluence, speaker at Sky High Symposium series conducted by Women and Young Members Empowerment Committee, speaker at more than 10 forums for financial and tax literacy, drive conducted by Ajmer branch of ICAI. Speaker on the top A to Z about startups and Chitrography graph Pali Ajmer. Speaker on the ocean of opportunities for MSME, various government sub-study scheme in various college, Jan Shikshan Sangathan and others training. Sanstha. So sorry for that.
Welcome you, ma'am, and it's over to you.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll just change my background. Just give me a moment.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Am I visible? Am I audible?
Yes,
ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So hello and very warm welcome to all of you. How many participants do we have today? I think it's around 17 or 18 participants. They have joined right now. Are we supposed to wait for some more to join, or
ma'am,
is
you
it
can
fine?
start. People will join in. You can start.
Okay. Okay. Fine. Fine. So today's topic is basically POSH. It stands for Prevention of Sexual Harassment, and it is basically for the women who are working at any of the offices. So it is for the working women for their safety and security. This act was enacted by the Parliament of India. So what does it mean? Why it is essential for all of us to understand? On whom this act is applicable? What are the complexities of the case, and how are the how are the measures taken under this act very seriously? So if you have seen a Bollywood movie in car, I don't know how many of you have watched that. That was a very famous movie based on this Posh Act itself. So we will not delve into the story of the movie, but basically there was a female who was working at that place, and the co-worker there, or the male partner who was working there, there were some allegations that the male counterpart has actually not done good things to her, or maybe there were some unwelcoming gestures from the other side. So can any action taken by a female on a worker on that particular occasion, or can she ever raise any complaint so that she can work easily, comfortably at the work premises? So based on that complete story, and based on the scenario, we will discuss today what are the implications of this POSH Act, on whom this is applicable, who are considered as employees here, and what are the various things which are specifically dealt in this act. So I will straight away start with the presentation. Just allow me a moment to share the screen. Just let me know if my screen is visible. Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. So the topic for the day is POSHAct, that means Prevention of Sexual Harassment at the Workplace. So this is the full form of this POSH, Prevention of Sexual Harassment, and it is basically talking about the female rights, the working women rights, and it is applicable only at the workplaces. So if a female is working somewhere, then what are the rights available to her based on this particular act? It is not a domestic violence act. So domestic violence act is obviously again for the females, but they that is for the females who are not working or maybe working, whatever it is, but it is for the domestic violence. That is a total different category. Here we are talking about the working women who are actually working somewhere, and at their workplace, if they face any kind of issue, whether they can raise their complaints or not. So we are talking about that in this particular scenario. So these two are different acts. So simultaneously also that can take place, but basically if your employer or any of the counterpart in the organization where you are working, if that male person is doing anything wrong to a female person, then the female can raise complaints. So this act is basically talking about that. So let us have a quick background about this POSH Act. So basically, this was introduced in the year 2013, the sexual harassment of women at workplace. So that is the full context with which we will be talking about. And it in India, it is the primary legislation to ensure a safe workplace for women. So this is the only act which is applicable throughout India for every working woman if they want to have any kind of rights, if they want to raise any voice against the harassment which is taking place against them. Okay. So let us first discuss about what can be the various gender issues. So there can be various kinds of gender issues like gender discrimination, gender sensitivity, gender equality or inequality, I would say. So let us discuss all of them one by one. So what do you mean by gender issues? So gender issues are basically the challenges arising from unequal treatment, stereotypes, and bias based on gender. Then let us discuss them one by one. Gender discrimination, what does that mean? This simply means that treating a person unfairly because of their gender in hiring, promotion, pay opportunities, or workplace behavior. So, this is something which many females face a discrimination. A discrimination means partiality or a biasness because uh, a male may get a better position, they may get a higher salary, but a female, even though they are doing the same work, but they might not receive the equal pay for that. So that kind of discrimination, if you are facing, that is simply known as gender discrimination. The next is gender sensitivity. So gender sensitivity is recognizing, respecting, and responding to the needs, perspectives, and dignity of all the genders without any kind of prejudice. So without any discrimination between the religion, caste, or creed, or whatever it is. If you are actually sensitive to the other person's need and things, then that is simply known as gender sensitivity. So you have to be showing respect to each and every gender, whether it is a male, female, or transgender also. Then next is gender equality. Gender equality ensures equal rights, responsibilities, opportunities, and access to resources for everyone, regardless of the gender. So these are the basic terms which are used in this act. And in general sense also, we must be aware what all these terms mean. Next is creating an inclusive workplace. So inclusive workplace means where everyone can come together and work. It is not specified for some sector, or it is not specified for a particular part of population. It is not like that. So creating an inclusive environment simply means it requires respect, equal opportunities, unbiased decision making, and zero tolerance for discrimination, so that there is no discrimination at all. So if that kind of policy are adopted by any organization, it shows that that workplace is an inclusive workplace. So even if a person is, physically challenged, then also the same opportunities are given to him or her at the time of recruitment, at the time of promotion, at the time of payment of salaries and all. So even if a person is of a different religion, a person is belonging to a different state, or a person is, physically or mentally challenged, same opportunities are given, then that workplace is basically considered to be an inclusive workplace because it does not discriminate between any of the persons. So, the final key message here we can say is that a gender sensitive and equal workplace promotes trust, diversity, innovation, and better organizational performance. So, if your workplace is an inclusive workplace, it will obviously give you confidence to move ahead, to perform better, to work in an environment which is providing equal opportunities for everyone. So, therefore, it is obviously required in every organization to have this kind of inclusive workplace, so as the employer employee relation is a very trustworthy relationship. It becomes a very trustworthy bonding, also creates a trustworthy bonding. Okay, so next, we are now moving ahead to understand what are the important things, or what are the important details about this particular Sexual Harassment at Workplace Act. So prevention, because it is not telling you how you can have this kind of sexual harassment, but how to prevent this. So prevention is important. This act basically talks about prevention, so not to have any kind of harassment. And even if some harassment has taken place, then what is the next step? So how you have to deal with it, so within the organization, rather than going to the court for the same thing, how you can deal it within the organization, keeping that as a very, confidential matter, because that is a very sensitive thing. If it leaks out, then obviously the goodwill of the business can be it can be in a dangerous position. So again, if you want to keep the goodwill of the firm or the entity intact, then there has to be some mechanism wherein you have the internal control, where you have the a kind of committee which, creates a fear in the minds of people that if proper ethics and all are not followed, then action can be taken on you. So disciplinary action kind of thing can take place if a person is not performing equally, or he's creating any kind of sexual harassment at the workplace. So that is the whole scenario for this particular thing. Okay, let's move forward. What is the basic concept of this act? Sexual harassment is any unwelcome act or behavior of a sexual nature that violates a person's dignity, creates an intimidating, hostile, or humiliating or offensive work environment, or affects employment opportunities. Under the POSHAct, it includes physical, verbal, non-verbal, and digital conduct. So basically, if this part is clear to you, most of the things will be clear going further also. So this is very important to understand at this particular point, that what do you mean by sexual harassment, because this lays down the foundation of today's session. So what do you mean by sexual harassment exactly? So this is any kind of unwelcome act, something which is not liked by a person. So maybe you are doing it with very good intention, or maybe it's not wrong from your side, but the person from whom that act is referring to, or the person who is receiving that particular thing, that person is not liking your behavior. That person is considering that as a unwelcome act, or he does not, or basically she does not like your behavior or your conduct. Maybe from your side it has nothing, it is not a kind of ill treatment from your side, but if the female is feeling that no, this is not welcoming act for me, or this is not a good gesture for me, or this is not something which I can take, in a good or healthy manner, then in that case that can be considered as an unwelcome act or behavior, or it can be simply considered as an sexual harassment. So that is the basic thing, and ultimately it should uh, uh, satisfy these conditions, that it should violate a person's dignity or create any kind of intimidating or hostile or humiliating or offensive work environment, so that a person cannot feel free to work in that environment. There is always a fear in the mind of that female that that the other person may pass some comments on her, or maybe there might be some other unwelcoming gestures coming from the other party. So, what are the various dimensions we must listen, or we must pay attention to? The first thing is the physical aspect of it. So, what do you mean by sexual harassment if we talk in physical terms? So, any unwanted touching, any physical contact, or any kind of assault is basically taken as a sexual harassment. Then it is not limited to physical only. It can be verbal, it can be non-verbal, it can now be digital or online also. Suppose you are sending WhatsApp messages, which are not considered healthy, or they are totally, obscure or that kind of thing. So inappropriate emails or social media interactions, that can be considered to be a sexual harassment as well, because the other party, that means the female counterpart, is not liking that at all. So what all is considered in verbal and non-verbal, let us also discuss that. So if some sexual comments are passed, or any jokes or remarks or repeated requests for any dates, that is also considered as a sexual harassment. Next is non-verbal. Non-verbal is simply, if a person is staring at any female, or any gestures are depicted from the body language, or any offensive image or symbols are displayed from the male counterpart, then that is also a kind of sexual harassment. So one of the misconception regarding the sexual harassment could be that it is only physical, but it is not so, because the POSH Act clearly defines that sexual harassment can be physical, verbal, non-verbal, digital, or online. So all these modes can be considered as in the sexual harassment category. Next is, what are the various types of sexual harassments? First is quid pro quo, that is this for that, which simply means employment benefits linked to sexual favors. So let me just give you an example. Suppose the manager says to the employee that I will promote you only if you do me some favors. So that kind of thing, because you are giving something in want of something else. So the when you have to give something and you are asking for something, so it is, give and take relationship. Once you give, then only you will be able to take something. So if that kind of thing is done, that can amount to sexual harassment. Next is hostile work environment. That means the working environment is not healthy. Whenever I enter into that particular place, there are a lot of comments, there are a lot of, jokes cracked on me, and that kind of environment, obviously, I will not be liking to work. So, that kind of fear, that kind of discomfort or humiliation, that is an unwelcoming act or behavior, and this is something which can be regarded as sexual harassment. So, hostile work environment, that means repeated unwelcome behavior that creates fear or discomfort or any kind of humiliation, that can be considered as sexual harassment. Let's go further. So let us understand what is the concept of impact and intent. So there might be when people may ask you what was your intention, why did you say so, or why did you did that particular gesture, what was your intention? Your intention might not be wrong, but how it has been taken by the other party, that is what is to be seen as per the Posh Act. So that is what we have to differentiate between. So what do you mean by impact and what is the final impact? So that is what we are distinguishing in this particular site, in this particular slide. So the first thing we will be discussing about is the intent. Intent means what the person meant. So the person who is passing on the comment, or he's saying something, or he's passing any kind of remarks, or he's cracking any kind of joke. So what is the actual intention of that person? Was it incorrect, or was it to actually make fun of the other person, or it was generalized? How it was? So what is the actual intent? It refers to the intention or the purpose behind the action. A person may believe that they are joking or complimenting someone. Good intentions, however, do not always prevent the harm, because you might think that you have a good intention, but the other party is offended by it. So, in that case, obviously, that can amount to sexual harassment. So, always be wise whenever you are saying something. You might be saying in a good intention, but the other party may still feel harmed by it. Okay, so what is impact? Impact is how the action is received at the receiver's end, or whosoever is listening to you. How do they feel ultimately? So that is the impact. Your intention might be different, but the impact which your action is causing, that is altogether different. So the action, how it is received by the other end, is normally known as the impact. So it refers to how the behavior affects the other person. If the behavior is unwelcoming, or it causes any discomfort, fear, or humiliation, or creates any hostile work environment, it impacts the matters. Under the POSH Act, the impact on the recipient is more important than the intention of the person. So, this line is very, very important for all of us to understand that in POSH Act, intention is not seen at all. So, you might say that I did not mean anything like that. I mean, the male part might say that he did not mean anything like that. But ultimately, what will be finally checked? It will be checked only through this uh, uh, impact, how it is creating on the other party. So, if a female is not finding that particular remark, or the comment, or the joke cracked, or the gestures done, or whatever action was there, if that is not healthy for her, or it is not a welcoming thing for her, or she's not taking it in a good spirit, then in that case, that particular action can be considered as sexual harassment, and complaints can be raised about it. So be very wise, be very cautious whenever you are saying something, whenever you are making any action or doing any action. So all that, whatever might be your intention, that will not be seen if any complaint is raised later on. Fine. So let us move further. So what is the meaning of employer, employee, and the workplace? Because all these three things are very, very important, because this POSH Act is designed only for the workplace. So firstly, we must understand what is a workplace. Secondly, if a person is working there, that person will be considered as employee, and the person who has hired that person will be considered as an employer. So what is the final liability of the employer? We will understand that. What is the duty of the employer? We will understand that. What are the rights of the employee? We will understand that scenario also. And whether all the organizations are supposed to follow this POSH Act, or are there any exceptions? We will discuss that as well, because we need to understand on what organization this POSH Act is applicable. So let us first understand what do you mean by workplace. So workplace includes offices, branch offices, or any branches, factories, client location. So even if you are going to a client place, okay, that will also be considered as a workplace, because you are going there for work. Then work related travel. So even if you are on travel and some mishappening has taken place, or any sexual harassment has taken place, then that can also be taken in this POSHAct. Transportation provided by the employer even during that time period. If anything during the when you are going back to home through cab, which is provided by the employer, at that point of time, sexual harassment, if anything has happened there, any sexual harassment has happened there, then also it can be taken up in the POSHAct, because it says that even during transportation provided by the employer, that will be considered to be a workplace. So, firstly, if you define that it is a workplace, POSHAct will be applicable. So, any kind of official events also, because sometimes parties are thrown or any social gatherings or official events are organized. So, even if you are at that point of time when you are not working, but you are, networking with other people, at that point of time also, POSHAct will be applicable, because you are there because of your position. You are attending that particular event. And any virtual or online space, because nowadays we are there for virtual meetings, or we might not be interacting with people physically, but virtually if we are interacting, then at that point of time also, if there is something wrong happening, then that can be considered. I mean, this virtual workspace can also be considered as a workplace, and then it can be taken into POSHAct. So we have to be very careful to understand that workplace just does not mean the office premises. It may mean the places outside the office also. Next important definition is the employee. Any person working on a regular, temporary, contractual, trainee, intern, apprentice, consultant, or volunteer basis, whether paid or unpaid, all these categories will be considered as employees. So, this is very, very important for all of you to understand, because normally in most of the acts, the employees are those who are on the record of the employer, right? Who are actually receiving payment through the employer. But here it is clearly mentioned that even if a person is hired on a contract basis, even if the person is an apprentice or a trainee, that person will also be considered to be the employee. Okay, and whether any payment has been made to him or her or not, then that person will also be considered to be an employee. So that is again a very wider definition which is given in this particular act. Next is employer, the person or the organization responsible for managing the workplace, ensuring the POSH compliance, constituting the internal committee, and providing a safe working environment. So here we are studying two things. In the definition of employer, we are here given what is the duty of the employer. If you are an employer, it is your duty to ensure POSH compliance. It is your duty to constitute an internal committee. Internal committee is basically a committee wherein these kind of complaints are handled internally. So rather than going to court, within the organization itself, a committee is there which will listen to these kind of complaints and take appropriate action. And then again, if you are an employer, then it is your duty to provide a safe working environment. So, who is an employer? Basically, the employer is a person who manages the whole workplace, and it is their duty to ensure the POSH compliance, to formulate, to constitute this internal committee, and provide a safe working environment. Next comes the very, very important definition, that is aggrieved woman. Aggrieved woman is a woman because they basically this act is for the fundamental rights of a woman. So if she is having any kind of complaints against any person, so a woman who is having complaints is basically known as aggrieved woman. So any woman, regardless of the age or employment status, who alleges sexual harassment at the workplace will be considered as an aggrieved woman. So whosoever feels that she wants to raise a complaint, that women will be considered as an aggrieved woman. I think this point is very, very clear to all of you, because all these definitions are very important to understand. And if a woman is considered as a grieved woman, then only she can obviously raise the complaint on the other male counterpart, and then the action can be taken by the employer or the internal committee, whatever it is, under this POSHAct. Okay, let us move further. So this is a summary of who all persons are considered as an employee, so that there is no confusion later on. So basically, the permanent employee, obviously, they will be counted under the POSH employees, or they will be counted as an employee as per POSHAct. What about the temporary employee? Yes, they will also be considered as an employee here. What about the part-time employee? Yes, they will also be considered as per the POSHAct. Whether it is a part-time or full-time, it hardly makes a difference. Any ad hoc employees, because they are not a regular employee. Sometimes there is a huge or volume of work, so that external people are hired. So even during that time, if only temporarily you are hired for some time or something like that, so at that point of time also, whosoever was employed, that will be considered as an employee. Next is daily wage workers, contract workers, employees supplied to any contractor or agency, any probationer, trainee, apprentice, volunteer, unpaid worker, interns, etc., will be considered as an employee here. So that is clear cut given that all these persons will be considered as employee. What about the customers and clients? Suppose they are coming to your place to discuss anything. So if a customer is coming to you or a client is coming to you, obviously they are not considered as an employee, but POSH protections can still be relevant because the act covers women at the workplace beyond the employer's own workforce. So even if the person who is coming to you is your client or any customer, he is not your employee, but still they can raise any complaint. So that is what is mentioned here. Okay. Next, mandatory requirement for the employer. So if you are an employer, what is your obligation? You must understand that. And then in the next slide onwards, we will understand what are the rights of the employee. So we are now discussing the duty of the employer. So first of all, anti-sexual harassment policy should be drafted, circulated uh, properly to all the employees. That is the basic responsibility of any of the employers. So there has to be a policy wherein everything is clearly mentioned, and it classifies what can be considered as sexual harassment, and this will definitely be considered as a misconduct, and the other person will be asked to leave the organization also. Maybe that can be highlighted in the policy. Next is the employer has to constitute this internal complaint committee, uh, which is known as ICC in short, or maybe IC in short. So, on whom this is applicable? So, any employer who is having minimum 10 employees, in that case, they have to have this internal complaint committee. What does this internal complaint committee comprises of? So, who all are part of this committee? It is mentioned here that it must include a presiding officer. Normally, it's a senior woman employee, whosoever is there in the organization. Then two internal members, any two members can be part of it. And then one has to be an external member. Preferably, it has to be from any NGO, so that totally disconnection can be, produced, that this person is totally disconnected with the organization, and that person will be totally unbiased. Normally, the external person, whosoever you are hiring, should be aware of some laws or basic fundamental rights, or basically he should or she should be dealing with some women issues. So normally it is required that the internal committee should have at least 50% female members, so that anyone or any female who is filing any complaint will be will feel secured that her complaint will be heard, or she will not have to face any kind of fear what will happen later, or it sometimes happens that you are not able to speak out in front of male counterparts. So there has to be female majority. It is recommended that you should have female majority in this internal complaints committee, so that females really feel free, whosoever aggrieved woman is there, they feel free to raise their complaints. Next is awareness and training. So again, it is the duty of the employer to create awareness, to create trainings from time to time. They have to create some workshops for the employees for the orientation of the IC members. Also, they have to conduct the training. So two kinds of trainings are required. One is for the employees, so that employees know that what is considered as sexual harassment and what is not, and what actions can be taken if anyone is found guilty. One training is that. Second training is for the IC members. IC members, just now we have studied that there is a separate committee altogether. So if there is any change in law, if there is any, any judgment has been given recently, so all that should be time to time discussed or conveyed to the internal committee, so that they are updated enough to take proper decisions. Next is displaying of the notice. That is again very important for the employers. Just like you have your safety posters or any motivational posters in the office premises. Similarly, you should have the posh compliance posters also in English as well as in the regional language. Next is annual reporting. That is a very important feature which we must know, that this is a very important duty of the employer, that annually they have to report out. What do they have to report out? They have to say that they have formed this committee, who are the members of this committee, whether the company is giving this detail in their board of directors report, annual report, or not. So in the board of directors report, in the annual report, there is a special mention regarding this posh compliance, whether the organization is having any internal committee, how many complaints were raised, how many complaints were addressed during the year, what was the action taken against the guilty person. So all that has to be mentioned in the board of directors report and the annual report. So that is something which is very important. Next is assistance to the aggrieved women. So what kind of assistance should be given by the employer? So supporting, provide the adequate support in filing complaint, giving the interim reliefs if at all it is required. And if a person is found guilty, then criminal complaint should be raised under the Indian Penal Code. That is also supposed to be a duty of the employer. Okay, so a proper healthy environment should be given. Full confidence should be given that your identity will remain confidential. Nothing will be disclosed out in public. So that kind of healthy environment should be given, safe environment should be given, so that if any female feels aggrieved, that they can raise the complaint. Okay, moving further, regarding the confidentiality clause, the identity of the complainant, whosoever is filing complaint, that shall be kept confidential, because no one wants to have their name, publicly revealed. So there is a role, or there is a clause of confidentiality in this POSHAct. It says that the identity of the complainant, the respondent, the witnesses, and the entire complaint details, or whatever the inquiry proceedings have taken place, they must remain confidential. It cannot move out of the room. So that has to be a very confidential thing. Unauthorized disclosure can attract disciplinary action and legal consequences. So again, confidentiality clause is to be seen very, very seriously in this case. Next is false and malicious complaints. So sometimes it happens that you don't like the other person, and in that case, if that false complaint is raised against the other person, so that let us see what action can take place. I'll show to you. So action may be taken only if a complaint is proven to be intentionally false or malicious after due inquiry. So if any complaint is later on found to be false and intentionally it was false or malicious, then in that case action can be taken against the complainant also. So there's one more point here. Lack of evidence alone does not mean the complaint is false. Sometimes we are not able to prove with sufficient evidence, uh, because we do not. There might be some lack of evidence, or maybe we do not have sufficient evidence to prove the complaint in sufficient manner. So, in that scenario, we should not consider this as a false complaint. Just because you could not prove something, it does not mean the complaint was itself false. So, there is a difference between a genuine complaint and a false complaint. Genuine complaint could be there with insufficient evidences, which could not ultimately reach to its conclusion, but it has nothing to do with any malicious intent or any false allegations. But on the other hand, there could be scenario where a person is filing a false or malicious complaint. In that case, obviously, action can be taken. This provision should not discourage genuine complainants from reporting harassment. Moving further, because it was the duty of the employer to write the company's POSH policy. So, what are the important things which should be there in the POSH policy? And obviously, this can be prepared by any professional also. So, normally, employers hire professionals to write this POSH policy. What does it do, or what does this policy have in detail? It clearly defines the sexual harassment and the prohibited behaviors. It states the organization's zero tolerance policy. It explains the complainant and inquiry process. It ensures confidentiality and protection against the retaliation. It communicates the policy to all the employees through induction and regular awareness programs. So basically, the last point simply says that it is a duty of the employer to convey it through proper induction trainings or creating awareness programs, that we have this kind of POSH policy also. And any kind of misconduct will not be tolerated. Then next duty, as we have understood, is regarding the forming of the internal committee. This I think we have already discussed, so I will skip this thing. Next is, what are the preventive authorities? So we have learned about this internal committee, wherein it is simply mentioned according to Section 4 of the POSHAct. It clearly mandates that every employer with 10 or more employees must constitute an internal committee at each office or branch. So it is clearly mentioned that if you have various branches, if you have different offices at different places, then at each office you should have this internal committee. What is the purpose of this internal committee? This internal committee will receive the complaints of the sexual harassment. It will conduct fair and confidential inquiries. It will recommend proper or appropriate action to the employer. It will further promote a safe and respectful workplace, which is the right of everyone, right? Next, what are the various other functions of this internal committee? It will accept the complaints. It will conduct the inquiry. It will recommend any interim relief if required. It will submit its inquiry report to the higher management. It will also recommend any kind of disciplinary action which can be taken. And obviously, their main function is to have to maintain the confidentiality of all the parties, of all the processing which has taken place, right? Next, what do you mean by this local committee? So this is again a new term which is mentioned in Section 6. So regarding this local committee, it is constituted by the district officer. So at every district, we have this local committee. Under this POSHAct, it is mandatory that every district should also have a local committee. What is the purpose of this local committee? So local committee deals with complaints when the workplace has less than 10 employees. So if you have more than 10 or more employees, if you already have, then every organization will have its own internal committee. But what about those organizations who have less than 10 employees and still some sexual harassment is taking place? So where can they complain? Where can the aggrieved woman complain in that case? So in that scenario, there is a local committee constituted at a district level, and there you can raise your complaint. So I'm just reading it from here again. The local committee deals with the complaints when the workplace has less than 10 employees. The complaint is against the employer and there is no internal committee existing. What is the function of this local committee? I think it is very well made clear to you that it will receive the complaint, it will conduct the inquiry, it will recommend the action, and it will finally ensure access to justice for women working in unorganized sector. Why they are saying it unorganized? Because it is having less than 10 employees as such. So the POSH Act also speaks for them that they can even raise the complaint to local committee. Okay. What is the responsibility of the internal committee, local committee, and the employer? So this slide is basically summarizing all what you have studied so far or what you have learned so far. The internal committee's responsibility is to receive the complaint, maintain confidentiality, conduct unbiased inquiry, follow the principles of natural justice, submit the inquiry report within the prescribed time, because they cannot endless drag the issue. Just like in court, they cannot give a lot of dates. So they have to work in a very time bound manner, and then they can finally recommend the disciplinary action, which will be finally taken by the higher management. Next is the local committee. What is the responsibility of the local committee? So they will handle the complaints where IC is unavailable or where there is no internal committee. The authority is local committee. So what they will do, they will again conduct the inquiry, they will recommend the action, and they will provide assistance to the complainants. What is the overall responsibility of the employer? Employer has to create a safe workplace. They have to display the POSH policy again, because this we might not be aware that the employer has to display the POSH policy, even though you have the POSH policy, but it should be made visible to the employees. It should be displayed in your office premises at particular position place so that it is visible to everyone. So it has to be displayed. Then proper IC training is to be conducted. Even for the employees also, you have to conduct the trainings. Then it is the duty of the employer to assist during the inquiry, because many a times investigations or inquiries are conducted with various with the staff or the office members. Then in that case, they have to cooperate. Then implement the recommendation. So it should not be just a theoretical thing. It should have a practical ending also. So whatever recommendation have been submitted through the report of this IC, then ultimately this has to be implemented by the employer. That is one of the foremost function of the employer. Next is to submit annual POSH report. So annually they have to mention what was the performance of the internal committee, how many complaints were received, how many have been successfully, handled, and what was the action taken. So everything has to be discussed with its members. So this has to be there. So you cannot keep that inside. You have to take all this thing transparently. So that is what is meant here. So there is a case study. Let us discuss this also. So this is a practical example which has taken place. So this was a case of Dr. Sohail Malik versus Union of India. Interdepartmental complaint was raised here. So what is the background? An IAS officer working in the Department of Food and Public Distribution alleged that she was sexually harassed by an IRS officer posted in different central government department. She filed a complaint before the internal complaints committee of her own department. So even if complaint, even if is my screen visible?
Yes,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Okay. So even if a person from other department is causing any kind of sexual harassment, you can raise the complaint in your own department. So that is what is discussed in this particular case. So what was the issue? The respondent argued that the IC of the complainant's department had no jurisdiction because he was employed in another department. Why? Because uh, basically the committee mentioned that we can take the complaints only of the people who are there in this department. We cannot accept the complaints of other departments. So where should she go? I mean, she cannot raise a complaint there also because there she is not a part of their team. So where should she complain? So that is why she went to the court for this thing, that I raised a complaint, but this was not heard. So that was the main issue. The respondent argued here, I'm reading this again. The respondent argued that ICC of the complainant's department had no jurisdiction because he was employed in some other department. He claimed that only the IC of his own department could inquire into the complaint. What was the Supreme Court decision in this particular case? The Supreme Court held that the ICC, the Internal Complaints Committee at the complainant's workplace, has the authority to inquire into the complaint even if the respondent belongs to a different department. The court has clarified that the complainant should not be denied access to redressal merely because the respondent works elsewhere. So even if someone else from some other department or some other office is bothering you, you can still file a complaint. The ICC of the complainant's workplace can conduct the initial fact-finding inquiry. If the disciplinary action is required, the findings may then be forwarded to the respondent's employer for the action under the applicable service rules. So what is the key learning for all of us from this particular case? Jurisdiction under the POSHAct is victim centric and it is not limited by the departmental boundary. So wherever the victim is, wherever that aggrieved woman is there, uh, she can raise a complaint within that jurisdiction, within that premises. A woman can file a complaint with the ICC of her workplace even if the respondent is employed in another department. The judgment strengthens access to justice and ensures effective implementation of the POSHAct. So with this, we come to the end of this theoretical part. I hope you all um, have learned something about this POSHAct. And if you have any questions, we are open to that. Otherwise, I have prepared some questions. If you can answer that, that will be really great.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you so much for your insightful and engaging presentation. Your valuable knowledge and examples made the session highly informative and beneficial. We sincerely appreciate your time, efforts, and contribution. So now I invite all the participants to share their question or queries in chat box. And also, if you prefer, you may ask your questions directly by unmuting yourself.
Are there any questions?
Okay.
All is clear to all of you?
Yes, ma'am. I think it will take time to all. So you can.
I can ask a few questions. It's okay. Just allow me 1 minute. I can share my presentation for these questions where the questions are there. Just a second. Is my screen visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, let's see who can answer and if you have understood the concept. So no one is judging you. Don't worry. No one is giving you any marks. It is just for your own, knowledge updation. So let's see how much you have learned. So first question. What does POSH stands for? Can we have the answers in the chat box? Option A, prevention of social harassment. Option B, prevention of sexual harassment. Option C, prevention of sexual harassment of women at workplace. Or option D, protection of social harmony. Yeah, Achalji has given, Sally, Sneha, all of you have given the correct answer. It is B. Rahulji has also mentioned yes, yes. So all of you are at least aware of the full form of this POSH now. Okay. Next question. In which year was the POSH Act enacted? In which year this act came into picture?
C. 2013.
2013, that is correct. So Achal, Dhavalji, Pranali, Seali, all of you have given the correct answer. The correct answer is option C, the year 2015. Next question. Which of the following may constitute a sexual harassment? Now, just read it completely and then answer. Which of the following may constitute a sexual harassment? So, first is sexually colored remarks. B. Unwelcome physical contacts. C. Demand of sexual favors. Or D. All of the above. Option D. Yeah, most of you have already replied in the chat box. That is correct. Option D. All of the above. Next. Which of the following is not sexual harassment? Okay, this has to be again read very, very carefully. Which of the following is not sexual harassment? Option A, constructive feedback on the work. Option B, requiring employees to meet job standards. Option C, following up on the work absence. Or option D, all of the above. Yes, I've already shown it to you. Option D, all of the above. So if any compliments are given or any constructive feedback is given on your work or anything harsh is said on your work, then it is considered as okay. It's not a sexual harassment at all. Okay. Next, who constitutes the local committee? Who constitutes the local committee? This might be tricky for you. Obviously, the local committee is not constituted by the employer because okay, let me give you the time to decide what is the correct answer for this. Option B. Most of you are saying option B. Vijayji, Premji, then okay, I have few more answers for that. Option B seems to be correct for most of you. Yes, you are right because it is the duty of the district office. At district level, this local committee will be formed. And if you remember why this local committee is formed, this is for those women employees basically where within their organization they have less than 10 employees. So if any organization is having less than 10 employees, then internal committee is not required to be formed. So where can they complain? So they can go to the local committee. Okay. So they have quasi judicial powers, just like court. They also have the authority. But again, we understand that if you go to the court, that is altogether a different scenario that may take a lot of time and energy and cost also. So therefore, it is better to go to these places. Next, what is the primary objective of the POSH Act 2013? What is the primary objective? Just read the options carefully. Option A, to punish the employees who behave improperly. Option B is to prevent sexual harassment and provide a mechanism for the redressal. Option C, to regulate the employment contracts. Or option D, to regulate the workplace salaries. Okay, Siddhi, Akansha, Dilipji, they have all mentioned option B. Yeah, option B is correct. There are many more names. I'm sorry, I'm not taking all the names, but yes, you are right. Option B is correct. Next, which of the following constitute sexual harassment under section 2N? Though we did not discuss the section number, but okay. This is defined. Sexual harassment is again defined in this particular section, section 2 clause N. So what is considered or as a sexual harassment? Physical contact and advances, demand or request for sexual favors, sexually colored remarks, showing pornography. I think this is clear that all of these will be considered. All of these will be considered as sexual harassment. Which statement about sexual harassment is most accurate? It always requires physical contact. Option B, it can only occur during office hours. Option C, it can include unwelcome verbal and non-verbal conduct of a sexual nature. Or option D, it can occur only between employees. You have to answer which statement about sexual harassment is most accurate. Achalji has mentioned option C. Okay, what about others? I've got one more answer. Okay, Sneha ji, Dilip ji, they have also mentioned option C. Akansha has also mentioned C. Let's see the answer. Yes, the correct answer is C. The statutory definition is deliberately broad because it includes physical, verbal, non-verbal, everything. So everything will fall into that sexual harassment definition. Next question. Any organization has only 8 employees. Is it completely exempt from the POSH? Is it completely exempt from the POSH? Internal committee is not supposed to be constituted. That is one thing. But still, whether POSH is applicable or not, that is the question. Sneha is saying option B. Okay. Dr. Atul Srivastava, he is saying option A. Achal is saying option B. Okay, never mind. Let us see what is the correct answer. The answer is B, that is no. So it is not exempt from POSH. It is not completely exempt from POSH. So the threshold of 10 or more workers relevant to constitute an internal committee, it does not mean that organizations below that threshold are outside the POSH framework altogether. Where an internal committee is not constituted because the statutory threshold is not met, the complaint mechanism under the Act involves a local committee. So ultimately, if we say that an organization is having less than 10, or suppose it has any 5 employees also, then in that case, will there be any POSH responsibility? Yes, the organization, the employer will still have the POSH responsibility. It's just that they do not have to constitute this internal committee, but they can ask their employees to go to local committee for any kind of grievance redressal. Okay, the last question for the day. At what employee strength is an internal committee required? I think this is very, very easy for all of you. Yeah, option B is correct. Akshita, Sneha, Dilip ji, all of you have mentioned the correct answer for this. So yeah, this. Thank you so much. That is it from my side. And still, if you have any questions, we are open for that.
Any questions from anyone?
Thank you, Achal ji, if you have liked the session.
So thank you so much, ma'am, for the quiz session. So as I'm seeing here, there is no another question, so I'm moving forward.
Okay. Thanks a lot, all the participants. Hopefully you
Ma'am,
enjoyed the sessions. Yeah. Yes, sir.
uh, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
If the suppose the employees who are not in the office hours, like in office hours during the office. Suppose they are outside the office
Yes, sir.
and some sexual harassment has been done.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so where she can take the action? She has to wait for the office to come, or else he can raise the complaint anywhere else.
No, sir. Actually, this complaint will be raised when, obviously, she can raise a complaint in the office only because the internal committee is there. So, there is a time limit to it. It's not that then and there she has to file the complaint. She can take, a week's time also, 10 days also to file a complaint, because sometimes a person is not in a mindset to raise complaint at the same point of time. So a time period is given within which she can raise the complaint. I have not taken that in detail, but if you read the act, the time limits are given. And since this is an encouraging act, it will not ask anyone not to file complaint even if the time has elapsed maybe. So there is some time period which is given, that within this time period you can file your complaint and that will be heard. So even if you are outside your premises, at that point of time any sexual harassment has taken place, you can file complaint whenever you are coming back to the office, or through mail also this thing can happen. No, you can file a complaint through mail. So it's not necessary that you have to physically get in touch with the internal committee and then you have to say it to them. You can mail them also. That is also allowed.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, can we wind up the session now?
Okay, thank you so much, sir. Thank you, ma'am.
Okay.
Feedback form. Please register on www.sadgunsang.org and go in, log in, and give feedback. ICS is placed to provide you all its research and development, integrated management system QMS, EMS, and HOSMS, excellence in education management, ISO made easy in Gujarati, Marathi, Telugu, and Hindi. Our recent publication written by Dr. Sundar Kataria, sir, Urja Thermal, Oil and Gas, Nuclear, Jung Se Jung Tak Fight with Rush, Corrosion Causes and its Mitigation. For reading any of the above books, please contact Ms. Sushma. Thank you for being a part of Sadgunsang on POSHAct. Thank you so much, you all. We are officially closing today's Sadgunsang. Thank you. Have a great day all.